Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode where we dive into some of the most interesting moments in politics. Today, we're focusing on President Trump, who's behaving like a child throwing a tantrum because, guess what? Xi Jinping hasn't responded to his demands regarding the 245% tariff. I mean, come on, it's just a little thing, right? But is it really? Let's see how Trump handles this one. So, let's set the scene here. It's no surprise that Trump is a man who's used to getting what he wants, right? Whether it's through sheer will, deals, or, let's be honest, sometimes brute force. But, this time, he's throwing a major tantrum, and it's because of the 245% tariff that he's been pushing on China. Now, anyone who's followed Trump knows that when he doesn't get his way, he doesn't just sit back and relax. Oh no, he turns into a child. He sulks, he pouts, he gets angry like a kid whose favorite toy just broke. So what happens? After months of threatening China with a 245% tariff, Trump is sitting in the Oval Office, phone in hand, watching the screen, waiting for a response. And guess what? No response. He's texting, he's calling, and when no one answers, he starts pacing. And I mean, really pacing, like a kid who's been told to go to their room, but now they just can't deal with being ignored. At this point, Trump is staring at the phone, tapping it like he's trying to get an answer out of the wall. It's getting ridiculous. He's been ignored for hours, days even. But he can't take it. Oh no. This is not just about business anymore, this is about winning, and he has to win, right? But here's the twist, Xi Jinping hasn't even noticed Trump's tantrum. He's too busy with things like, running the world's second-largest economy, calmly sipping his tea. And still, there's no call from China. The 245% tariff threat is sitting there on the table, and Trump is beside himself. He thought this would be the ultimate move to get China to the negotiating table, but instead, he's being ignored. And what does Trump do next? You guessed it, he throws a full-blown temper tantrum. Picture this, Trump gets on TV, goes to the mic, and starts talking about the 245% tariff again. He's trying to remind China of the big deal he's offering them, but it just sounds desperate at this point. The longer he waits, the more it feels like he's a kid begging for attention. Xi Jinping, the one who's not bothered. And let's flip the coin here for a second. While Trump is losing his cool, Xi Jinping is, doing what she does best, staying completely calm. While Trump is practically having a meltdown over the 245% tariff, she is sitting in his office, probably sipping on some tea, thinking, tariff? What tariff? She doesn't need to react to this. Why? Because China has long-term strategies, and let's face it, China is playing the long game. She is probably looking at his economic growth charts, watching his nation's progress, and thinking, this is just another Tuesday. Tariffs like the ones Trump's threatening. They're hardly an issue when you've got a game plan that stretches for decades. Now, imagine this, she is calmly attending international meetings, discussing global trade, new policies, and handling far more important things than some tantrum over a tariff. He's probably even smiling a little bit, knowing full well that Trump's outburst doesn't even faze him. The 245% tariff threat. To China, it's like a loud but harmless noise in the background. It's not even something to break a sweat over. In fact, the longer Trump throws his tantrum, the more China can continue its rise on the global stage, unconcerned by the petty threats coming from the other side of the world. And while Trump is scrambling for an answer, she is calmly making strategic decisions that will shape the future of his country and the world. China isn't scared of short-term disruptions. While Trump is playing chess, trying to intimidate his opponents with quick moves, she is playing Go. One step at a time, thinking ahead, and not letting anything, especially a 245% tariff threat, shake him. Trump tries, crying for attention, acting like a child. So, after a few days of silence from Xi Jinping, Trump starts to panic. And let me tell you, the kid in him is coming out full force. He gets on TV, he starts tweeting, and he's like, China, why are you ignoring me? This is ridiculous. I am doing you a favor here. It's honestly hard to watch. It's like watching a child who didn't get invited to the birthday party and is now yelling, I'll throw my own party and it'll be way better. At this point, Trump is sending texts and making threats, if you don't respond soon, I'll make this tariff 1,000%. I can do it. It's like when a kid says, if you don't give me that toy, I'll never speak to you again. And yet, still, silence. No response. He's being completely ignored by Xi Jinping, who is likely having a nice lunch and not even checking his phone. Trump keeps making bigger and bigger threats. I'm going to wreck your economy. I'll make you pay. And still, there's no reply. And what does this do to Trump's ego? Well, he gets even more angry, but he also knows that China isn't playing his game. She isn't panicking. He's not throwing his own tantrum. He's not even bothered. It's almost painful to watch at this point. Trump is desperately trying to get a reaction out of China, and the more he does, the more he looks like a child who's been told, no, a tantrum, nothing more. Xi Jinping doesn't care. And let's be clear here, the thing about Xi Jinping is that he doesn't care about Trump's outbursts. Why? Because he doesn't need to. China has a strategy, a long-term one, and a little 245% tariff threat isn't going to disrupt it. As Trump is sulking in his office, Xi is out there, meeting with leaders, strengthening his country's influence, and moving forward with his plan to dominate the next century. Let's be honest, Xi Jinping doesn't need to raise his voice. He doesn't need to threaten anyone. He's not worried about tariffs, short-term trade deals, or any of that. He's thinking bigger. And the thing is, Trump doesn't even seem to realize that. He's still waiting for that phone call that's never coming. So, while Trump is running around sending aggressive messages, Xi is calmly running his country, and China continues to rise. Nothing changes for China. The longer Trump throws his tantrum, the more China just moves ahead, unshaken. At this point, things are starting to get ridiculous. Trump, not receiving a response from Xi Jinping, decides to up the ante. Instead of just sulking in his office, now he's starting to give bizarre speeches, making grandiose threats, and trying to rally his supporters like a kid trying to get attention at the playground. But guess what? It's not working. Trump is now telling the world, if China doesn't respond soon, I will declare the greatest trade war ever seen. You can almost hear the whining in his voice as he says this. It's like a child throwing a fit in front of a whole crowd, yelling louder and louder, hoping someone will notice and give him what he wants. Dialogue. But here's the thing, Xi Jinping still isn't listening. He's not even paying attention to Trump's antics. He knows this isn't a battle of words or tantrums. It's about real power, real strategy, and real growth. Trump's little fits. They're just background noise. In fact, Xi is now moving ahead with new economic partnerships around the world. He's making new trade deals, establishing influence, and getting countries to work with China. Meanwhile, Trump is still ranting about tariffs that no one is really taking seriously. He's calling out countries and businesses, threatening them with penalties, but no one's buying into it. Trump starts holding press conferences, demanding that Xi pick up the phone, saying, "You're making a huge mistake, China. You'll regret not talking to me. I can make this whole thing worse for you." The desperation is palpable. He's like a child in the back seat of a car, kicking and screaming because he didn't get what he wanted. At this point, his behavior is getting more erratic, and people are starting to tune him out. No one is impressed. And let's talk about the press. Reporters are asking him, "Mr. President, is China going to respond?" And Trump, with a red face, says, "Well, they'd better. Or else." The "or else" part is where he loses all credibility. It's like when a child threatens to tell on someone but doesn't have the power to do so. But then, in classic Trump style, he throws one last tantrum. He makes a speech about how he's going to cut off all trade with China if they don't immediately agree to his terms. This is it. This is the moment where everyone realizes that Trump is completely losing it. Instead of just being an annoyance, he's now threatening the economy of the entire world to get what he wants. The world watches in shock as Trump, with a smug look on his face, declares, "If China doesn't agree to these terms, we're done. No more trade." And here's where the whole tantrum falls apart. China doesn't even flinch. Xi Jinping, instead of responding with a loud statement or making a dramatic move, simply continues with his long-term plans, showing that no matter what Trump says, he's not going to let this tantrum derail him. And that's the difference. Trump's trying to push the world's economy into chaos because of his own ego, but Xi knows that in the end, it's about patience and perseverance. While Trump's throwing tantrums and making unrealistic threats, she is building real power, and he doesn't need to waste time engaging with a child's temper. As the days pass, Trump's outbursts only make him look more and more ridiculous. The world has started to move on. She has continued with his economic strategy, and no one is really paying attention to Trump's threats anymore. And you know what happens next. China's economy grows even more. Trump, meanwhile, is still stuck in his tantrum. He doesn't realize that his big threats are only hurting his credibility, while China remains calm, collected, and unstoppable. And so, the lesson here is simple: in diplomacy, just like in life, it's not the loudest or most dramatic tantrums that win the day. It's the quiet, steady, and long-term strategy that prevails. And there you have it. While Trump behaves like a child throwing a tantrum, Xi Jinping continues running his country with calm and long-term strategy. Do you think Trump could learn a little bit of composure in governance? Maybe a little patience. Remember to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more entertaining, satirical takes on global politics. Thanks for watching. See you next time.